All right, everybody, welcome back to the fifth and final round of day one of the Boil. Of course, this is only the fifth round of Swiss. There will be 2 rounds tomorrow and then a cut to top 16. The Boil is a platinum event held by the TopDeck Championship Series. It is the largest events they have. First place gets $2,000, 500 points on their leaderboard, which we've shown multiple times throughout the event. Players doing quite a bit of winning. We're going to get to see one of those in just a moment. We'll get the leaderboard up also in just a moment, but a lot on the line as players are beginning to make runs at top 8. Today we're going to be our top 16. Sorry, I need to adjust that heuristic.
Yeah, coming to a close.
Coming to a close, players. The winner of this pod, I think, especially going to be looking to have that top 16 slot locked up as we're going to be watching pod number 1. Before we do that, let's take a quick look at our leaderboard so that we can run through that prior to this starting. All right, at first, remember we have Jorman leading by about 200 points. Of course, that can change very quickly at 1. Well, oh, that's not his record. He's not 1-0-2, is he? I didn't get this updated. Oh, no. I believe he's 1-0-2 going to the last round. I believe he won, so I think that's 2-0-2. We're looking at Ori at 1-1-2. David Wilson, I believe, is out at this point. Grant's not here. Matt Sternberg, 3-1. Leon's still not here. Evan Pierce at 3-1. A little bit of a rally from that loss that we saw earlier on camera. Max not here. Wyatt has dropped. Eric Duval, someone we have not seen at all today, going to be present in this pod, has rallied to 3-1. An impressive comeback and, going to matter a lot having that record improve and doing well in this event if we're looking to climb the leaderboard after this event ends. So Jorman's lead may be in a little bit of peril. We'll see. Jorman's still in the event, still doing fine for himself. And we will maybe get a look at his record a little bit later on. But those are the updates I have for you right now about the leaderboard. Let's cut really quick to the table. We can see exactly what we're working with. A few of these players we've seen before. We'll start. Of course,
some familiar faces. Yeah, I know.
Sternberg?
Max Sternberg, first seat. Co-host of Colors Are a Crutch. We have both Maxes in our feature match today. Kinnan Aficionado.
Yeah, that's true. Kinnan Aficionado. Played quite a bit. Wounded Satellite, known for that. Second place, there's Eric Duval. Assuming they're seated in correct order. I guess, they may have just sat down in a different way than we've seen throughout the day. But second seat there, you have Lucas the Sharpshooter, Will the Wise. A deck we haven't seen.
Blues Clues.
Blues Clues. Yeah, sure. These are the
is that not commonly accepted?
That is what it says. Look, I don't use the deck names. I just want to call them what they are, Kyle.
All right. Fine.
Maybe New England Clam Chowder, because it was really drilled into my head. Like I can't escape that. Which of course you can already see. Those of you that were present for last round get to see some New England Clam Chowder there. If you are not familiar, then feel free to watch the VODs, but I'm certainly not going to run you through it again. It's a Sisay deck built around no bad cards. And then of course in fourth seat there, a deck I have not seen very much of recently, and my understanding people don't really play anymore, and that's Thrasios Tymna.
Yeah, just another good stuff soup deck to kind of round out our soup.
Yeah. You just gotta stress the soup. I told you, I was talking for the broadcast that after Sisay got revamped, right, and turned no bad card Sisay became New England Clam Chowder, we're gonna revamp and rename Najila to Lobster Bisque. So we're gonna start this competition. Lobster Bisque, my choice for best soup. So I need to know, you're gonna redefine Tivit. What's the soup name for Tivit?
I don't know, maybe Manhattan Clam Chowder.
It's like stolen.
But it's going to be a work in progress, though. We do have Thrasios Tymna, though, some seafood.
Walk me through the differences between a Manhattan clam chowder and a New England clam chowder. I've only had clam chowder from Boston. That is the location I have had clam chowder from.
New England, I believe, is white. It's the white, creamy, thick kind, and Manhattan is the red, more tomatoey kind.
Oh, really?
I believe. I think they're both good. I haven't met a clam chowder I didn't like.
Yeah, clam chowder Always keeps its promises. Very honest soup. All right, I have a question. All right, just keeping with the theme because this is a professional broadcast. I
Yes.
was hanging out with Mikey in Philadelphia once. We went to a
Mhm.
restaurant. Soup of the day. You know what it said? It
Mhm.
said chili.
Oh,
Is
not
chili a soup?
whiskey.
Chili's just not a soup, right? That's just not a soup. But since then,
Not a
I've seen
soup.
multiple places call their soup of the day chili. That's not a soup.
Yeah, maybe that's a regional thing, but it's also wrong if it is.
Maybe. Oh.
Oh,
Clam
yes.
chowder got box shuffled, I've been informed. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Oh,
Oh, oh,
so
cards
some
backwards.
backwards cards to work through for
I have a
New
story
England
about
clam
that
chowder.
too. Where I come from, the my circle, we had a player that just like played with sleeves that were like monocolor or whatever, and just blatantly didn't care if some cards were backwards or not. Like not like when they were playtesting, just like
Oh,
hanging out, they would just
yeah.
shuffle and it'd be all which way. And it is, I mean, that is the most maddening thing. I'm not even OCD or like whatever, anything like that. I can't claim any of this. I just like, it is physically painful to witness someone that just has no respect for the laws of the universe and is just willing to shuffle their deck every which way, ignoring any marked cards. This player was not good
Yeah.
enough to leverage a marked card
Yeah.
situation. This is entirely just apathy towards the direction of their cards when they're drawing cards. I
Apathy.
could not imagine living
Deck
like that.
apathy.
Yeah, foul. Thankfully, things New England clam chowder going to be rectified to be
Yeah,
able
it
to
it it would bug me. It's a good fix.
Anyway, I suppose it's time we talk about pod composition. When we're talking about Kinnan in first seat, does that scare you? They have some explosive draws. Basalt Monolith. I mean, we could kill on turn one. I've seen kills as quick as turn like 2 and 3. Happen with some
Yeah,
amount of
how many
consistency.
do we know how many cards Max kept? It looks like there's a fairly large grip here and leads off with a okay. Something's
What
occurring.
are we
Okay. That may be a
doing?
mulligan. Okay. Yeah.
We're
That's a I
showing the
had
mulligan.
Mystic on the play. Oh man.
Never look.
Draws the
Never look.
crypt.
The
Don't
crypt's
ever
right
look.
there.
Don't ever look.
Oh dear. Well, Mana Crypt was on top. That tends to fix a lot of opening hands as players are resolving mulligans. There we get that Kinnan. I believe Wounded Satellite actually sent me a direct message on Discord. I don't check my Discord direct messages very often. Maybe to a fault. I don't check my direct messages anywhere very often. Send me a picture of that. It's a tight, little close-up scan in one of the events I was covering, showing me the Kinnan. The Kinnan is nice. Not sure if it's
Is it? I've
monoflesh,
never
but it
seen it
looks
up
like it.
close. I've seen that graphic though in other like top 4 and top 16 matches that they've been in.
Yeah, that's tends to be how these things work. It's a nice Kinnan. Kinnan, its presence in this tournament, no small amount due to Wounded Satellite's performances with the deck. I mean, here today, doing even more, winning with the deck. New England Clam Chowder in the last interview called Indomitable. I'd argue Kinnan in the hands of Wounded Satellite potentially as indomitable, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very dangerous. And yeah, Max has actually been playing Ob Nixilis. I've watched some of the film from a couple prior tournaments this month where they made the top 4 a couple times. But going back to Kinnan being kind of like the baseline, and kind of in the same vein, comedian also going back to Kinnan, like
Yeah.
the Boyle's a big deal. This is the biggest tournament in the history of the country for this format. So they're like, I'm going to put my best foot forward here. I am at home when I am trying to ramp out and make a Kinnan as fast as possible. So it not super surprising to see Max ship at least one hand. Looks like he's going back to the well again. Um,
It's
just looking
telling to
for
me
some fast rocks.
what players pick up when all the cards are down, when all the
Yeah,
chips are in the pot. What decks do people reach for? And Kinnan coming out in a big way for that reason for some of these players that Maybe we're experimenting with some brews, especially as the content creators. There's a lot of incentive around that to represent
Yep.
new archetypes. A lot of exploration still to be done in CDH. We see that. I mean, actively in this event with Sisse, we've already seen that be the case. But I think we're really beginning to see a meta game shape with Tymna and Crom as one of the prominent decks, Kennen as one of the prominent decks, and the rest of the pack starting to fall a little bit behind. We'll see how
Yeah.
the rest of this tournament breaks if that holds true. But I mean, it certainly doesn't look that way from the pods we've been watching. We've been watching a lot of Sissy, we've been watching a lot of green included decks, but some of them are very weirdly shaped. We've seen some Atraxa, we've seen some, Tymna Thrasios is here in this pod, and these are decks that have been doing a lot of winning today. But based on what people are picking up for the highest stakes event, largest event that they've probably ever played, I think it's telling what people think are the best decks and the decks that they're willing to, bring to the table when you care about winning above all else. So as these players are shuffling up, again, 4 different decks at this pod. Very interested to see what Eric Duval is up to with their take on Lucas the Sharpshooter, Will the Wise, Blue's Clues, of course, a term making fun of maybe Will's ability to make clues. It lets everybody investigate. Not really sure. I think there's some kind of combo you can do with these commanders, but I mean, I'd still, even with that in mind, if there's no Luris in the companion zone, I don't know what the incentive to do this thing over just a Tymna Crom setup is, and that is something I'm going to be looking for throughout the course of this game. Is what does this deck bring to the table with this partner pairing over Tymna Crom, the one we're very used to seeing more often? Different deck shape. Obviously, I think there's some combo
Yeah.
potential. Is that worth it?
Yeah. Is it worth it is a great question. Obviously, not matching the dominance of Timon and Crom, but if you have a more aggressive play style, there's win cons in the command zone, unlike Timon and Crom, so you can. I expect it to play out fairly differently compared to how we've seen Timon and Crom, where they've been kind of falling behind in the pods that we've been broadcasting, at least. And obviously a biased sample size, given that if we look 2 days from now, like what won, we're going to see a bunch of Timon and Crom, but it just has not been doing very well in the sample size we picked.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, maybe it's going to do well some amount, right? Because there's
It
just so
will,
many
yeah.
registered. It's going to do some amount of winning just by
Mhm.
the law of numbers or whatever it even is. There's
Yep.
just so many. But like you said, in these games we've watched, I mean, it just constantly looks like it's just a little too slow or a little like one interaction piece short constantly, pod after pod that we've watched here today.
Yeah.
As Max is going to start off with a Springleaf Drum from the Kinnan side. Imagine fetching Tropical Island. Not a lot of incentive to grab any other lands unless you're worried about
Mhm.
something like a Blood Moon. And that's going to get things started. No Gemstone Caverns. Have to be pretty happy to see that if you are Max Sternberg.
Yeah,
Plateau and
just
Esper.
kind of a basic, turn 1 play. You can go turn 2 cannon, and you have access to mana. So it's a respectable start.
Another respectable start from our, I don't want to say our hero, but number 10 on the leaderboard, someone that certainly needs the points from this event, Esper Sentinel. I believe that is a Mox Opal from the Secret Lair follow-up, but I'll have to
Oh,
get
okay.
confirmation on that. Yeah, it's one of the new Fraser ones that's been doing all the Moxin. I really like
Oh,
him,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. Yeah, it looks cool. I haven't seen it before.
And Delighted
Yeah, good
Hat.
start in second seat with the
Yeah,
Esper Sentinel.
great start. Esper Sentinel upping your artifact count. Great way to get the mana started there.
Yep.
What do we have?
Dialing it
Like I
up
said, we
already
have,
with Soul Ring.
yeah, it is Soul Ring. And Talisman, the most mana of any of the starts. Of course, Kinnan does obfuscate that math a little bit, making each
Mhm.
mana producing thing make a little bit more. Assuming Kinnan hits the board this turn, as it often does, and based on
Yep.
those gestures from Max, I believe that is exactly what is going to happen. As
Yep.
our
Just how you draw it up, Max. Like, okay, are we good?
yeah, looks like we are. And back, players playing very quickly. Back to Eric we go. Gonna fetch with Bloodstained Mire. Not a lot of guns blazing, I'd say. A lot of mana development, but
Yeah,
not
kind of
really any
conservative
tutoring.
starts.
Yeah, no seals, no vamps, none of that stuff really going on. Just all right. I'm gonna get my mana started, and we'll figure a plan out from there. It's kind of the feel I get from this pod.
Yeah, unlike some of the prior games that we've seen where like Mystic Aristic was kind of like commander agnostic. Whoever had it was going buck wild.
Right. Zach, with his take on Clam Chowder, remember, does have a little bit more potential to be explosive, as he claims, than other Sisay decks. We'll see if that manifests here. It certainly did well. We watched him literally win the previous pod. I'm going to get to see him again here. Very different texture from the previous pod, but still a lot of the same cards work. That's why they are what they are. Ragavan added to the mix. Not dashed, notably. A lot of juicy
I
attackers.
don't
I don't
mind
think
it.
Dan is blocking. And back over to the clam chowder we go. See what Zach has on turn 2. If it's just Sisay, I mean, it's not the worst turn, but it ain't that strong either. Lotho, I'd argue,
Both
much
okay.
stronger than Sisay. A card we haven't really seen much of today, but I think is
Yeah,
a
we haven't
huge
seen.
player from the Lord of the Rings sets for CEDH.
Yeah,
Second spell birds.
guns ablazing with the immediate treasure there. Yeah, maybe generating at least one additional treasure for this
Like
turn
to
cycle.
see. This is a good opportunity to once again bring up that token. I have no idea what it is if I didn't know Lotha was just played. If only we
Yep.
had some much clearer to read tokens at the table. God, I love when I get to yell at players.
Do we
with blood.
have any clear tokens like what you just
Oh, we
described?
sure do.
Where
Original
do I
print
get them?
proxies. You can find them at alltradesmedia.etsy.com. Use code Eminence for, I believe, 25% off your order. Ton of money off. You get good tokens that I can actually read when playing over webcam or in a spot like this. And of course, they have that nice little active player token they're also not using, which it makes it a lot less clear what is going on. Please, our
For
table spotter
shame.
would like to inform our players that we have tokens there for a reason. Please use them because I can actually see what's going on. I really value that. And I'm sure you people at home do as well. And if you want tokens that you can actually read, you can get them at alltradesmedia.etsy.com. Code Eminence at checkout. The original print proxy pack. OP3. I like it. The 3 Ps in a row. Gives it a nice look. Ranger Captain coming down. Not as good in the face of a Kinnan. Pretty good against a lot of what the rest is going on, especially with the New England Clam Chowder build of this Sisay deck.
Yeah, more spell based.
More spell based, yeah. So Ranger Captain going to be stronger.
Yeah, break up the breach lines that you almost never see out of Sisay, even though they have access to all 5 colors, and can really create some awkward spots with any Thoracle lines as well.
Yeah, you want to talk about like zigging when you should zag. That's a little bit of what's at play here. Like Sisay, you would expect to normally be pretty good against Ranger Captain of Eos. But actually, this build's a little bit weaker. So even though he's like, okay, normally you would expect Sisay to play a bunch of clunky cards, and that's how you might play against my deck. When you eschew that and go for a more traditional build of a CDH deck, including a lot more of the staples that you see in other decks, you're going to run face first into a lot of the preparation other players have as well. And Ranger Captain, I think, part of that mix.
Yeah, and the rest of the table may not know they're actually up against New England Clam Chowder quite yet. Like all there's been is Lotho. That's a staple of Sisay. It's a white and black legend. Like usually the black pip is the hardest one to achieve, and that's a very good black legend. So unclear if they actually know what the matchup is yet.
Yeah, I think Zach in his interview certainly leveraging a lot of that Brewers advantage, the kind of people not really knowing the exact composition of his deck, expecting a little bit slower of a build that's just trickier, like what Malcolm has brought to the table. We'll see if that can come up big in this game, as no triple white means you don't get to deploy the Esper Sentinel we grabbed. Often very difficult to do in any kind of 4-color deck is have that triple white to make Ranger Captain Esper Sentinel happen. Sometimes you see other creatures grabbed as a result. I've seen Ragavan more often than not, but this is not a red deck. We're talking about Timna Thrasios, not Timna Crom. So just no further
No
play.
docksides here.
Past the turn. No dockside, yeah. No dockside there at all. Only half the pod interested in registering the card Dockside Extortionist.
Yeah, coming back to that 50-50 split that we saw to begin the day on the
Sure.
dockside counts.
Would you say
But
that's
whoever,
about the average? Is 50% of
I
the
think,
pod?
yeah, I think 2 or 3. When I was playing last weekend with Tivit, there's like I always needed like a blind obedience or a dauntless dismantler in my early turns, and yeah, it's just not even matchup dependent. It's like you just got to be ready for it. At least half the table is
It's
there.
gotta be there.
Like it's just it's just there. It's too innocuous.
Well, here, we'll see what Max can come up with. Has done a lot of fanning it out. Access quite a bit of mana. Springleaf Drum representing that. Oh, okay, never mind. The turn is actually over at Eric. And that looks like Mystical
Yeah,
Tutor?
it's that mystical tutor we saw earlier today. From
Yeah.
I think Phil Foglio, maybe.
Are we instepping this? Looks like we are. Mana
Interesting,
still capped
yeah.
for Ragavan. Okay. What do we grab here? Do we have? I mean, we've got to be pretty far from a combo. We don't have ad nauseum mana. Transmute
Okay.
artifact.
Those are fighting words.
Okay.
No one just does that one.
Yeah,
That's
that
like,
when you
okay.
grab that card, you're usually not up to any good. Let's take a look at the artifact column for this Will the Wise, Lucas the Sharpshooter deck. Cloudstone Curio catching my eye pretty quickly. The One Ring as well, if you're interested in grinding. Wishclaw Talisman, if you're just looking to filter it. But I would
And then you
imagine we're
got
grabbing.
LED. It's
Yeah.
it's a difficult spot though, because you still have to face this Ranger Captain. So I'm
I
not
mean, yeah, if you have
sure.
a way to make One Ring work, that's what I would want to do in
Yeah,
this
I think
spot,
it's the
but I'm
best
not sure
one.
we can.
It's not typically a thing that Transmute Artifact finds. It's usually just some kind of win condition in the decks that play Transmute Artifact, but it'll get Basalt Monolith or Time Sieve or something. Like it's the last
Right.
thing you'll see typically, but yeah, the Ranger's tough to deal with. Max also with a fair amount of cards in hand, just past the turn. It looked like there was some conversation that was had before the Mystical Tutor was fired off as well. So maybe turtling up.
Ooh, Arcane Signet, the hit off of Ragavan, not a 0.
Yeah,
Mana neutral if you're looking to grab a expensive artifact, right? From your
and
transmute.
not interested in trading off with the Lotho as well, just kind of letting it happen.
No shot. Never trading out Lotho there. Lotho's
Yeah, it'll
I call
probably be.
Lotho dockside on
Yeah,
suspend. That's what it feels like to me every time I play
it
him.
is. It is. It's dockside at home,
And we
which is
are
good
going to play the Arcane
enough.
Signet. And tapping a ton of mana. Didn't get a good look at what we cast there. Got put off to the side like a
Yeah,
creature.
I
Let's
didn't see
take a
that
look at what
either.
it could be. Phyrexian Metamorph is my guess. That looks like a secret layer version of Phyrexian Metamorph. Sweet art, actually, looking at it. What is that make? That can make a Ranger Captain. That's kind of strong.
Yeah, that's real strong. That's always a danger with the Ranger captains, old Ranger danger. They can make more copies there. They got to be like kind of close to making something truly horrific. After already finding the transmute artifacts, it was
Yeah.
Metamorph.
It is Phyrexian Metamorph. And yeah, like I said, I think the juiciest target for me, especially being tapped out as Ranger Captain, that was one of my favorite cards when I was playing Najeela and had a lot of the creature tutors. It does so much to keep these spell-based combos in check, and you don't even have to hold mana up. Why are we fist bumping? Are we
Oh,
done?
is that a draw? Okay, that looks like a draw.
Uh, that looks like it looks like they. This is the second time we've seen this on camera where we are choosing to draw and then playing. I guess we're just going to play the rest of the game out. But this match has resulted in a draw. We don't have a backup feature, so we might as well see how it plays out. But I want
Yeah.
to take a moment. Is this going to become commonplace? Like we saw this very early in the event where we're not even talking about drawing into top 16. That's definitely not the case here either. I think
Mhm.
these players are in good shape to make it. But are you
Yeah.
supposed to be offering draws more often when the board state starts to get locked down and you feel unfavored?
It looks that way. Yeah, like there's a couple rounds to take a draw and just get it while you
Yeah, if a
can.
game starts to feel like it might not go your way, you can convince some people to take a draw. You should just be doing it. I've never. This doesn't happen in 60 card formats like this. You really don't do this with
Yeah.
like your friends or whatever, or when you're already locked. But when you're talking about a 4-player dynamic and the game can take a lot of different shapes, is it safer to start taking draws for your win rate? I think Caleb might be locked with a draw. They might be the lone undefeated,
Yeah, I think
and
Caleb had
that's our
16
Tim
points coming
Nebraska's
into
player.
this at a 301 record.
Yeah, so I think they're the only player that's locked with a
Yeah.
draw. He's the only one interested in drawing. The rest of the players, I mean, not dead with a draw or anything, but do need to find another win. Interesting to see them go for a draw here. Either way, it's a
Yeah,
draw.
most of their tie breaks are also in a pretty similar spot as well of the remaining 3 players in the pod at the 3-1 record. Kind of hugging that 40% mark.
Yeah, that is odd. Well, either way, players going to continue playing it out. Ranger Captain, I have to imagine. I was busy focused on the draw, didn't have a great insight into what happened there with the Phyrexian Metamorph. Have to imagine it did, in fact, make a Ranger Captain. No, it could be Lotho, but um, we will find
Yeah, I
out
mean,
in time safely.
Caleb was the scariest, so there may have been a situation where Caleb began with just taking the offering a draw, being like, okay, is this good enough?
Oh,
Be good
that's
enough?
sick. Put yourself in a spot where I'm about to untap with this Ranger Captain. I will offer this once. Do you
Like,
want to take a draw? And
yeah,
just see if
like
they
this,
will.
anything can happen. Like, I'm offering it now. Like, this, you guys might just all lose at this point. Like, it's now
Yeah.
or never.
Yeah, I don't know what my draw step is. I don't know what everything looks like, but untapping with the Ranger Captain's bad for you, and I'm locked with a draw. Do you want it?
Yeah,
And the
a lot of
table may have
uncertainty
said
there.
yes. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen this happen before. It's certainly not on camera, but I've never seen this kind of thing happen before. It is a strange texture. Yeah, we've seen this happen with splits and draws in the top 16, but just the random draws when you're behind. It feels like a new heuristic. I don't know if it speaks to any tournament structure changes requirement, being required, but
Yeah,
could
does
just be a
seem technically
nature of
correct.
the 4-player format. Just the fact that things can just change so much. And how do you pad your record against that? As here is Springleaf Drum going to be making some additional mana with Kennen. Make 2 mana.
Yeah, Max has been like pretty quiet this game. Just
Oh, another transmute. More transmutes here than
not
I've ever
anymore.
seen. Makes
Not
blue
anymore.
blue.
I
Now you do
take it
not
all back.
sacrifice. This is one of the old templating where you don't sacrifice on cast. Don't
Yep,
have to commit it
that's right.
until it resolves. Only one artifact in place, so we know the Springleaf Drum will hit the bin if this resolves. I think if you remove the Springleaf Drum as well, that also is a blowout.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Well, we'll see exactly how that plays out as these
Yeah, so it looks
players
like
shuffling up. If you don't crack Ranger Captain here in any universe, right? Like
I
if you
don't
grab
think so
Monolith
because
face
yeah,
up,
those two of the lands should be. Oh, is this a one ring? I see 3 lands tapped and not 2. I was
that's
expecting a
Monolith,
2-land plus
right?
a monolith because
Oh,
the
maybe it
drum
is one ring.
costs
True.
1. So this must be a 1 ring.
Wow.
Or
Not
maybe
even.
just paying for the Esper Sentinel. I guess we'll find out which one of those 2 things occurred.
Well, there's 2 Esper
There's 2,
Sentinels,
yeah,
right?
there's 2 Sentinels,
Yeah.
so it could be
It is
okay,
the One
yeah.
Ring. You're right.
Just
Paying for
giving,
nothing, grab a One Ring.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, because even if
Okay.
Basalt Monolith was found, if there's no additional mana, like you're just like stopped and you don't get a Kinnan activation. You have infinite colorless and then a tropical island remaining if that's like all the juice you have at this point.
Okay.
So Max instead just deciding, okay, I'll play on. I'll draw some more cards. I'll pick my fight at a later time. Like, which is probably a pretty good that's a heads up play just because we know that once we get to Blue's Clues, they're also going to be casting a transmute artifact potentially very soon, and that may be a fight also.
Oh,
Oh,
and
another mana. So
Manamo
yeah,
played after the fact, and that can untap the One Ring as well.
yeah,
Good.
excellent sequencing there.
Able to disguise that Manamo a little bit. It has drawn a card past it. And remember, no protection trigger, thanks to being cheated into play with Transmute, was not cast.
Yep, that's correct.
We'll see exactly how much that's going to end up mattering. No glint horns or anything to think about there. Ragavan also a consideration, able to connect, not have to worry about protection, and there's no blockers for Max right now. A lot of talk here during the Ragavan attack.
Which
Very
I,
interesting.
I respect this since they've already taken a draw, but they're like, I still want to win this for the bragging rights. I want to win on camera.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I
like,
appreciate it. Give us
let's
some competitive Magic
yeah,
to watch. Don't
let's
just throw
bust
your
out the
cards
chops
around.
still. Let's politic. I don't care. I'm still in it.
Love it. Get some good reps in. Last round of the day, so you don't even have to really worry about resting and recovering for another round. This is it. You're done after this.
Yeah, I mean
Competitive Magic
it's
here
tough.
still.
After 5 rounds of play against very talented players, every pod is just a slog. And still like,
Yeah.
I got one left in me. Let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah. Well, looks like a lot of discussion here still. I mean, the Ragavan still is not connected. Active player. Still Eric Duval over here. And Orcish
The Bowmaster.
Bowmasters coming in.
Okay, this thing
Well, that
is
can
gonna
start to
do
clean
some
up these Esper
damage.
Sentinel stuff. Oh,
Sentinel,
and
One
Lotho? Yeah.
Ring, like, let's talk.
Plenty.
Everyone's like, who wants to like be my friend? You like, we're just gonna like, I don't know, blow up the bird or the Lotho, and yeah, there's a lot of opportunity here. And then Kinnan, always a threat. Always have to respect it. Send it back to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, I think that's well, notably too. Kennen, I mean, obviously, this Bowmasters does some amount to mitigate the One Ring, but as far as actually winning the game, Kennen doesn't actually do it through drawing cards very often, and
No, yeah.
I think that's going to yield not actually caring about this Orcish Bowmasters as much as the rest of the pod, and the rest of the pod gets a turn before you have to be concerned about how much it's going to mitigate your One Ring.
Yeah. It's just Max can just work with
Oh,
everyone. Oh, Teferi.
Teferi Time Raveler.
Interesting.
Well, that's a very loud declaration. Do we have a win attempt in the chamber?
I don't think so. There may be some politicking where you could say, "Hey, Sisse, I don't think you're close to winning, so like, I'm gonna bounce your Sisse because I don't want you to have it, but like, you can attack with Delighted Halfling, and I won't block to get it off the table."
Sure, yeah. There's
You always
politics.
you got to make a deal. You can create a deal, but it's a judgment call when you want to do it. If you want to pass the turn and agree to have him attack a Teferi.
And we're seeing
But
a
it's a
lot
lot of
of
work. It's a lot
confrontation
of
here.
extra work.
I mean, we already cleaned up Sisse's Lotho and Birds of Paradise off of these draws.
Because that's the
ETB
conventional wisdom, but they're not aware of the soup aspect of that deck. So
You
like
can't underestimate the soup.
like they're not even underestimating. They like probably don't even know that the chowder exists and it may be in the
No.
hand.
What are you supposed to do? Just soup flying out, clams.
Yeah,
Just
they're like,
chomping.
I got rid of the bird. Like they can activate Sisse like once if they really try. But yeah, there's 3 treasures though, so the Sisse is still like, you should still probably respect it. They can probably cobble something together. Just putting them on the stock Sisse list.
I have to agree with that. Is Teferi still in the stack? No loyalty on that one quite yet. I have to see.
I mean,
What?
there's a ranger captain there too, so it can only be so scary at this time. You still have a failsafe if they
Yeah, Teferi
actually
can
believe
bounce
that
the
it's
Ranger
an
captain,
aggressive
right? I mean,
Teferi.
not saying that's good because then it gets cracked, and then who knows what happens for the rest of the game. So yeah, maybe the politicking has to
Yeah.
involve. Well, I'm not, not gonna crack this Ranger captain right now. And if you bounce it, I'll crack it, and then you die to whoever. You're gonna die to Sisei.
Mhm.
And if they're aware that Sisei is not normal Sisei, then it even doubles down on that effect. They're
Yeah,
aware.
we
Oh,
don't
this
know
has
if
breach
that's
in
what
it.
it
Like you could
does.
just die.
Yeah, we're not sure if that's part of their thought process or not at this time. If because yeah, the ranger captain is way more valuable. Usually, Sisei casts 0 spells, so they don't respect the ranger captain quite as much as if you have the traditional Grixis lines that this Sisei deck has.
Yeah, I agree with that. So a lot of discussion on this Teferi. We will see exactly if players are going to make any moves. I mean, a lot of talking for. I get the impression there's not that much interaction at the table right now, aside from what is on the table. Talking about, of course, the
Mhm.
Ranger Captain. Any amount of like the Bowmasters, if that's something you want to consider. Maybe a few counterspells in hand, and we're reaching for something. Caleb's reaching for something and has put it back down. See if
And
we're going to
it's
cast anything at all here. And it is
also
going
just
to
the way
dissolve.
this Teferi was cast. The One Ring is maybe the most threatening thing on the table at this time, and like to not to discount Thrasios Timna, but it's something that you don't expect it to kind of like win out of nowhere and just turn the corner immediately. It's more of it's more of a real mid-range rock deck. So I don't know. It looks like they're going with likely some politicking of delighted halfling, maybe going after this Teferi, saying I'm not too scared of what's going to go on. I'm just going to get some value because I'm not. It may signal that they're not actually ready to win either, by just kind of running the Teferi out there for value to repulse the Sisei.
Yeah. Having a defense card that can be attacked so you don't die to it is actually an interesting dynamic. And we did choose to bounce the Sisei, so that's in hand.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah,
of
I've made
course,
that
the
line
clam
with
chowder can
Tivit
pop off
before
here.
with the politic that comes alongside that.
I like that. That's
But
a
it's
juicy. That's a
risky.
juicy
It's
take.
real
Yeah.
risky because this could be a breach or a Thoracle or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Like, yep, didn't know
Zach
that
has
could
the
happen.
cover.
They got 3 treasures. Like this could be a Thoracle line. People were like, "What just happened?"
I think you're kind of forced to be kept honest thanks to the Ranger Captain actually functioning underneath the Teferi, but that is just not
Yeah, they could just go like Thassa's
going to be
Oracle,
enough.
and then they
If
can just cast it in response if that's what they have. But yeah,
we
it'll foil a
already had
breach
a
line
chance at it,
here.
right?
So there.
Like Caleb
What's that?
already had the Ranger Captain, right? So we already could have had a silenced attempt at a
Mhm.
win. So like
Yeah,
I'm not too
they
scared of
deemed
what
him.
Caleb can do.
Yeah, they deemed Blue's Clues safe from that. Like even if they assemble a transmute artifact, it's kind of whatever. Gilded Drake though,
Gilded Drake coming down. Unclear
taking
what
a
this actually
Kinnan.
represents. Yeah,
We
are
gonna
we just taking
steal a
Kennen?
Kinnan?
It's the
We
best.
got 2 treasures left and a delighted halfling. Like we might be able to cook with that. And just taking Kinnan, just always a good idea.
Agree there. I definitely agree with taking Kennen being a good idea. And it actually makes the Gilded Drake mana neutral if you're going to play Kennen or you're going to take Kennen and then do something else with your turn. If you have any fast mana, that's obviously turbocharged, but it's actually just straight up free heads up, like you
Mhm.
said, with the treasures that are already in play.
Yeah, the more I look at a lot of the complicated lines, and it's like, what do I clone? What do I take? It's like the answer is typically Kinnan. Like most decks just love having a Kinnan,
Yeah, a
and
lot of these
taking
decks
it
we've
from
seen today just
Max.
play
Just
Kennen and they're 99s, 98s.
yeah, it's such a really good card.
It's one of the strongest ones. In fact, I think this is going to be no different. Clam Chowder has one, and so does the Timna Thrasios deck has a Kennen as well. So every person at the table basically that can play Kinnan has one.
Yeah, and they can recast Sisay, uncounterable, once they have the Kinnan, if that is the desired target. Because you can't take the Ranger Captain, so just sack it in response. It's like probably not a great line, unless they know something we don't, based on what they've been
I mean, you
talking
could
about.
politic, be like, I'm gonna take the Ranger
Yeah,
Captain. Obviously, if I had a win, I would use it. I would do it now because I have a Teferi cover.
yeah,
Like,
because it never actually
but
happens. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I think you do want the Kinnan though. No, it's Bowmasters.
Okay, that's surprising. That's very
Okay.
interesting.
After your X ones have already been killed.
Yeah, it's just gonna go after some Esper Sentinels maybe, or you can just like play some stuff and trigger some draw steps. You can go after maybe Kinnan first.
Yeah, go after the
Definitely
Kinnan and then
a
reach
lot
for
of
Ranger
opportunity
Captain.
with this take as well.
Also, didn't redeploy.
They left it to Fairy too.
Yeah,
Didn't attack
didn't
it.
redeploy Sisay. Didn't attack to Fairy. A very interesting set of politics that had to have happened
Hmm.
there for this game state to enter in this way. But back to Caleb we go. Ranger Captain, a commander in play, plenty of mana to work with. Did he find anything worth doing to close this game out?
I'd also like to see a cool Gilded Drake proxy in the future. So when you hand a Gilded Drake around the table, it's like, it's like a $250 card. Like I'd have a proxy for paper tournaments.
Yeah, it's one that ends up in other people's. We saw some
Yeah,
cards
you're
get
gonna
end
lose
up in other
it.
people's
It's like,
decks. That one
yeah,
ends up in other people's decks all the time.
yeah,
And I bought one. I don't know how often I should be playing, but my boy Mike Sad, he did some
mhm,
alters at playing with power, and he made a sweet Gilded Drake proxy that I use. It's like
yeah.
painted over and hand painted, really cool
That's
for
the way to
that.
do it, I think. Yeah, but handing
That
the OG one over here.
Yeah, I'll keep that. I'll keep that off to the side. I'll put it in my deck box or something. That's gonna stay right here. And here comes a big attack. Able to draw some cards. Will trigger Bowmasters if that
Mhm.
does happen, which would pick off. I mean, some amount of Caleb's board state, thanks to this Bowmasters, might begin to look good right now if we're drawing cards off Timna. Now, it looks to be what we're doing. Maybe thinking before blocks. No, it's going to be 2 cards. And here comes a 2/2 Orc Army.
A lot of juicy targets.
Oh yeah. Esper
It'll.
Sentinels, cannons. You get 2, so you don't have to do any kind of speculative, put some
Mhm.
damage, and then hope that more draws happen later. You could just pick off the cannon now. It's 2 triggers. That's where you
The
want to
Teferi
go.
might be able to live now. I don't think Max is going to do anything too insane as long as you take care of the Kinnan right now.
Well, maybe. I mean, being able to untap with all your mana is very different from having to commit 3 mana to put your Teferi in play to begin with, but maybe it's not that different.
Yeah, I guess that is the consideration there. It's like, yeah, then they get to untap an entire. I mean, it would be really sweet when you recap the game. It's like, yeah, they just cast Teferi and passed an entire turn cycle went around and
Nothing
just won
happened.
with that Teferi.
At what point are we willing to
Like,
say
it's
we're
a
too deep
gutsy
in the mid
line.
range? If somebody's putting defense grid in play and passing and nobody's winning, are we
Yeah.
in too deep? Do we have too much interaction? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I,
hard for me to
I
say.
think I think that Teferi just got pinged down because they're like, yeah, like 2 turns down the line, maybe someone will use it to protect a win.
Sure. Yeah, I don't hate the philosophy. Although you do still have this Ranger Captain in play now as the only silence effect to contend with. Not sure what that's worth, what that means for the table. I mean, Caleb hasn't had a win yet, although did just pick up 2 new cards. And you can maybe do some. You mentioned politicking. Wandering Bowmasters is something you can politic with. Hey, as soon as you tap that, I'm gonna go after this. Why don't you wait and see, if that even needs to happen? Maybe you could do some politicking there. Versus, if you tap it on your main phase, I'm gonna kill your cannon. If you wait, maybe I kill Ranger Captain instead, and you get to keep cannon for the moment. I think there's politic opportunity there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It maxes at the table. and they are very big into the political aspect of the games and kind of guides everyone else like, hey, you got to worry about this person, like they're the problem, like maybe pump the brakes in this spot. Like they don't always listen, but he'll at least like, typically offer some sound advice on how to navigate the board.
Well, and here we just deployed Chrome Mox and then deployed Thrasios. Thrasios and Timna now both in play. That's what those unreadable cards from here is. I'm sure they're beautiful in person. From up here, the Timna and Thrasios that are off to the side, much more legible, as here is the one ring being
Yes.
tapped right away. And that's going to generate 2 Bowmaster's triggers going after Ragavan and Esper Sentinel. Not
Okay.
concerned. Not
Mhm.
concerned with the Kinnan. Let's imagine that is some manner of blue-green land. It's Ristic Study.
Ristic.
Follow-up for Max, a good pickup. Although, maybe a little mitigated still by Bowmasters, but somehow still has Kinnan in play. Not too concerned about that yet.
Yeah,
Also has
doing a
Manamal
good job
activation up.
talking to kind of keep the board
Is that the only way
intact.
this Kinnan would be in play for you? You seem like you want to have
I
gotten
think
that
so.
kill.
I think so.
Okay,
Well,
alright.
the Kinnan itself is not dangerous, and
Sure.
like it's fine for a little bit, and there may be a deal reached where like I'll keep just pumping mana to untap the One Ring and activate it, and let's just destroy everything, and then you can do it. If I start getting scary, you can take care of my Kinnan. But the transmute artifact has been face up for multiple turns, knowing
Yeah,
that
we've
they're
known
like
about
at
that.
least one turn away from an A+B.
Is that? I mean, do we have an A+B? What do we have here?
I'm
There
not
goes
sure
Arcane
exactly.
Sigil.
However,
Yeah, I don't
it's got to
either.
be something. It could be a Cloudstone Curio going on.
We're
It
gonna
could
find
be,
out. I'll say that.
yeah. There's a lot of different options, and there's like LEDs. So there's different things that could happen. Um, Although I know that one's like not quite as likely given the Ranger captain in play. So I'd imagine it's like a Cloudstone Curio loop of some sort. You have I don't know, Phyrexian Metamorph. There's
Yeah, you
some
have all
things you can
creatures,
probably
right?
get
You should have a
going.
pile of creatures, and
Yeah,
like that works on the
Curio can
Ranger Captain.
navigate around the
Okay.
Ranger captain. So I'd imagine that's the route they're trying to take.
Yeah, I think that's
But we'll
what we're
see.
sort of.
This will be very indicative of the route they're going to take very shortly when we decide. And maybe they're not sure either. Maybe they're like,
I
this
mean,
is
they're just
like,
like, I want to use my mana efficiently. This is
yeah,
what I
like
gotta
I've had this
do.
in play. Like I might be not as powerful in the political aspect of this game just because I have this thing that's everyone thinks I'm a threat. So maybe I just get it out of my hand. Yeah, one ring. Okay. So they're like, yeah, I'm fine. Just cash it out because it's a dangerous card to Mystical Tutor for. You're just like, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
problematic. Watch out. I didn't do this on accident.
taking some notes from Max. So that once again, now this Bowmasters trade is looking better and better. And originally we were kind of like, yeah, Kinnan's the best card in play, and the blah blah blah. I had all these perceptions. Well, then a bunch of additional card advantage engines hit the board, and now this Orcish Bowmasters. I mean, the trade looks to be very good.
Yeah, and New England clam chowder can be friendly with probably multiple opponents here.
Yeah, yeah.
They get-
You can get a bowl of clam chowder. I can get a bowl of clam chowder. We should all, it's the last round. Sip on
Everyone's
some
just
soup.
like working
Cold outside.
overtime with this Bowmaster, showing exactly why between the Bowmaster and the Ristic study, just like an absolute clinic of the most problematic cards alongside Dockside in this format. Just like
We
the
can take a moment to
weirdest
talk
things
about
are
that, right?
happening here.
We've seen some Dockside wins, but it's from
Mhm.
dedicated Dockside wins decks like Sisse and stuff, right? We haven't really seen as much of the just like value Dockside. It's been like, oh, I'm playing additional creature tutors, Teamer Pirates. That's another
Yep.
deck with just creature tutors for the Dockside. We haven't really seen as much just like demonic tutor for Dockside. Honestly, I think we've seen more of the One Ring than any other like card advantage piece, any other like namesake card of the CDH format right now. I mean, once again, we're in a
Seen a
spot with
lot of
multiple One
rings.
Rings in play. And yeah, we've seen 2, 3, we've seen Metamorphs for the One Ring. Like this format, I was sold. Mystic Remora, Ristic Study, what it's all about. I feel like I've seen more One Rings than both of those cards combined.
Yeah, Mystic very contextual. We've seen a lot of runaway Mystic Remoras though, but it did require some setup. It can go wrong, yeah, like it can backfire in the wrong spots, especially in competent pods.
Well, here is 3 mana.
The
It's system
Bowmaster's
time.
getting
It's
kind of large
system
too,
time.
or the token. So eventually,
Yes.
like we can nuke all the creatures and have just a giant orc army token.
We saw a lot of that with Bowmasters right immediately in the format. People just trying to like wheel and then beat people. Like you get to kill one player with the wheel triggers, then use the Orc army to kill another player, and then do a 1v1 versus the player that's most behind in the pod post wheel with your huge creature and huge board state. I haven't seen as much of that recently, and the Bowmasters, I mean, it's shown it just doesn't really need the help. It doesn't need these
Yeah.
wheels to back it up. You could just put it and play against some of these draw engines, and you're gonna get a big orc army just organically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a Thrasios activation right there. Didn't get a great look about what went to hand. That's appeared to be what happened.
Oh, I think it was a Mystic Remora.
Okay. Well, that one's a little late to the party. Probably still fine to deploy, being a 1 mana play.
Yeah, they got a lot of mana at this point. You can keep it around for maybe 3 turns. Probably be worth your time. But yeah, we're kind of
Yeah, we got
settling
that's the right
into a
keep it around.
mid-range slog fest. And the Bowmasters, kind of yet again just being the focal point of everything that's happening. Just
Well,
always
3
being part
cards
of
are
that
coming right
conversation.
now. Yeah, now the Orc army is getting 3 points of power and toughness bigger, and there are 3 triggers. Is it killing Ken in time? Or are we thinking it's killing Ranger Captain time? I kind of want to kill the Ranger Captain now.
Yeah, at some point it's a good thing to kill. You may be able to
There it
convince
goes.
Blues Clues to do that with their One Ring as well. Yeah, Ranger Captain down.
Ranger Captain down. It does work. That 1 ring tap for 3, and it's a Vampiric Tutor
Vamp.
on end step after this happens.
lot of
Little bit
hand
of emotion
motions
there.
from
Yeah, I love
Thrasios
that.
Timna.
Well,
It's
the
the end
Ranger
of the
Captain
day, you're
happened. I don't
feeling
think we can
yourself.
respond to this vamp. This vamp is gonna happen. Yeah, I don't know why we're
Yeah.
talking about it. I mean, it'd have to be a creature of some kind. I assume this Ranger Captain has already been cracked. Cards
Yeah.
already drawn from players. Ristic Study can draw another card. We're fetching in response. Okay. Thought we Ranger Captain cracked, so maybe this is all in response. That would be strange. I have to imagine if you're Caleb, you let the Ranger Captain resolve, then cast your Vampiric Tutor. I mean, I highly doubt that we did it the other way, but
Yeah.
a fetch nonetheless. See what's up. If it's opposition agent, that would be
That would
strong.
be real rough if you think like, oh yeah, I'm safe too. I just cracked the Ranger Captain because it was free to crack it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's just go for my tutor. Oh, all right. Are we just pump
Okay.
faking, playing around opposing opposition agent? I don't really know, but it is going to be Vampiric Tutor resolving. No opposition agent this time. And we will see what Caleb comes up with.
Yeah, it's just such a sticky board.
What works? Yeah,
You
what works?
gotta no one thing just unsticks it. I don't believe there's Hullbreaker Horror. That's usually the thing that busts the game open.
I thought Thrasios had
Yeah, no
one. Yeah.
Hullbreaker. Maybe Seedborn Muse, or it's tough. It's a really creature based deck, and they can
Yeah,
the
format
One Rings
does a
can
lot
just
to
team
mitigate
up with
that.
this Bowmaster.
Well, they're tapped down now, so Ristic Study is the only real concern. Maybe we can reach for something like a Displacer Kitten kill? I really don't know. I mean, there's no Ranger Captains left, so like spells kind of work. Like, how bad is an ad nauseum here?
It's true, they do
30-30?
play Adnos. They're
Yeah, I mean, with Shocking into Watergrave speaks to plan for action this turn, or we just want to activate Thrasios a million times. Also very possible. Seems
Yeah.
worse than the One Ring activations. Activating Thrasios seems like it puts you further behind than what the other players at the table have going on, and it's Mystic Remore to kick things off. Triggers Ristic Study.
Yeah, it's tough because Thrasios Timna generally wanting to grind, but it's hard to keep up with what's going on. And if you get too far ahead, then the Bowmaster just kind of beats you back down. But like, do you want to blow your vamp on just a removal spell for this Bowmaster? Because
No way.
it's
I don't.
kind of
You
hurting
go your
everyone.
own Bowmaster and just kill it with that, right? I mean, just leave the.
Yeah,
I mean, you can maybe do that. I don't hate
you
that.
could maybe do that. Yeah,
I don't think it's that
there's
good. Damage on Kinnan.
there's
Thanks
no
to the
Gilded
Ristic Study.
Drake. That'd be an interesting grab as well.
Yeah, Gilded Drake would be strong.
I've seen in other Thrasios Timna decks in the past. It's
What about
yeah,
Seedborn
definitely.
Muse? Is it just Seedborn Muse time? Does that just die to One Ring? Just dies to One Rings, right?
Yeah,
Got that.
it's tough. Adnaz, I liked your idea with the Adnaz. It's one of the few things. Or let's see. Oh
I just
wait,
want to know
there's
what works. It's just nothing works. Ristic Study draws a
yeah,
bunch of cards if you try to add Nas kill, and that leads to you dying to the Bowmasters.
and
Fish
there's
is down, countered by
and this
Mental
deck is also
Misstep.
not playing. Imposter Mech. That's a good one. That was probably the tutor.
Oh, yeah, there's
That's a
Bowmasters
good
not
answer to
susceptible.
opposing
Yeah,
Bowmaster.
very nice. Paying for Ristic Study
That's like the
on this
best
Imposter Mech.
card to copy a Bowmaster. That's
Yeah, because future Bowmasters don't get it, and then you still,
yeah,
after
it
the
just
fact, get to
sits
pick off
there.
other
It's
Bowmasters.
untouchable.
Again, and more imposter mechs than I've ever seen before. I mean,
Yeah.
more clone effects than I've ever seen before. I think we're really seeing a shift in CEDH with these imposter mechs, with this the flesh duplicate. Like these are just cards that you need if you want to compete in a Bowmasters metagame. It's just these clones, copy Kinnons, you copy Ranger Captains, copy Docksides, copy Bowmasters. It's just a critical mass of juicy targets, and the clones are a high enough quality now. You're not just dealing with Phantasmal Image anymore. That you get situations like this where people are just tutoring for Imposture Mech because it just doesn't die to creature
If I'm
removal.
building a non-red deck, I'm probably putting Imposter Mech in it.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
being able to copy your own dockside, like definitely a big disadvantage. I think the one reason we're not seeing just a total resurgence of that card, or just it's a ubiquity of it.
Mhm.
But like this is a perfect deck for it, Thrasios Timna. I'm playing every color but red, so I'm probably copying a dockside anyway. So let's get going with that.
Let's get going with that indeed. As these players, I think, still doing a little bit of politicking. It's going to be Force
Yeah,
of Negation pitching
pitching
Flusterstorm. That's two
Fluster.
pieces of interaction coming down from the Clam Chowder. Needs to stop this Imposter Mech from happening. Maybe one of the downsides of Imposter Mech is susceptible to the non-creatures,
Yeah,
the
it
negate.
is. It is.
Delay, looking to clean up that Force of Negation. See if that happens. Thinking about potentially paying for Ristic Study.
Also, interesting deck building note on this Thrasios Timna deck. No culling ritual when I'm looking for things like what do I get to reset this game? It's not in there. There's Adnaz, so
It's
there
surprising given you have
it
access
is
to Thrasios, a
surprising.
place to dump the mana. I feel like, I mean, you would really
Yeah, and
reach
and
for
ad
something like that.
nauseums. That's a deliberate choice because you just don't
Yeah.
not play that card accidentally in a black green deck in this format. It's such a busted card. There has to be a way that they are playing that just does not lend itself, maybe a lot of dyssynergy with the mana dorks.
Yeah, it looks
But
like
an
that
interesting deck
delay is
building.
going to happen.
Very interesting.
And delay is going to happen. Imposture Mech going to, I mean, that looked like Inchers clone Bowmasters, kill Bowmasters. We may have one more draw that happens. I think there was still a Ristic draw on the stack. So we're going to have one more Bowmasters ping to throw around. Kinnon's already picked off. from the Bowmasters triggers this turn can maybe start to go after like Timna and stuff. Don't think there's any X1s left in play worth looking at reaching for. And Imposter Mech going.
Ooh, dramatic. Is that dramatic reversal? They play that? Yeah.
That is dramatic reversal, yeah. That's going to untap a lot of mana. Soul Ring, Talisman, Chrome Mox. It is a ritual. What are we doing? I thought this Imposter Mech killed Bowmasters, and that suddenly didn't happen. And now the Metamorph has a counter on it. What?
That's interesting. This deck does not play Icecrown Scepter, but plays dramatic reversal. You don't see that very often.
You see that a lot. Yeah, I used to see it a lot more. It fell out of favor, I think, a little bit as Talismans and Signets started to see less play. You would see just like value dramatic reversals. You still see it every now and again with like creature mana heavy decks where it just like represents a ton of mana, but less so now.
Yeah,
I mean, full deck.
Yeah, it's just like it looks like generally just a very large ritual.
Yeah. Played it a lot in a lot
of
very
interesting
decks. Yidris, a deck of yesteryear, played one as a just a mana rock on tapper because a lot of your Storm plan involved just putting a ton of artifact mana in play. Don't really see that as much anymore. Dockside, I think, kind of shored all that stuff up. No need to do that when it's both actively bad against Dockside, and you can just be doing your own Dockside in the meantime. And an attack coming across with Timna. Card going to come through. And Imposter Mech. Yeah, whatever the Metamorph is dead. I believe that might have been a Kinnan. Looks like 2 damage was enough to kill it. And now
certainly a lot of action in this turn.
Yeah, I mean a ton of Bowmasters pings. Somehow, I think we must have politicked our way into, okay, it's Bowmasters versus One Rings. I won't kill your Bowmaster if you don't kill mine. And that's where we're at. Because I see an Orc army for 3 different players at this table. That I see 2 players with Bowmasters, 2 players with One Ring, and here is a tap of One Ring, draw 4
yeah, Max,
cards.
like, I'm going for it. I don't have a Bowmaster, but like,
what do you want me to do? Not draw cards?
I just need to
let's blade.
Cause some commotion at this point.
And yeah, there must be some kind of politic deal here to keep each other's Bowmaster from being picked off. Of course, the Imposter
Max just fired it off. There, so I
think what must have happened is there was a Rhystic Study trigger underneath it all, and Zach said, "If you copy my bow, like if I will kill my Bowmasters right now unless you commit to not copying my Bowmasters. Like I will use this Bowmaster trigger to kill my own Bowmasters because you're going to kill it anyway if you copy my Bowmasters. So copy something else with that Imposter Mech, or I'm just going to kill it with this Rhystic Study trigger that happened for your Imposter Mech, and that must be the deal that's at work here." Makes sense to me.
And now this is an interesting. This is just an interesting board state. I've played against Thrasios Timna before, and I've had the same feeling of just I'm walking with water waders in just the murkiest swamp, and like my feet are stuck to the mud. Like I can't do anything, and it feels like you're tutoring. You're like, I don't know what to tutor for. Like nothing is gonna work. It's just I'm just in a swamp. That's how it feels. And this is exactly what this board makes me feel. So this must mean that Thrasios Timna is the problem, and it's probably too late to do anything about it when you have this, I don't know, just this dread over the board.
Yeah, I think that's a fine read. The only caveat, oh wow, putting Kinnan in play for 4 mana in the face of 2 Bowmasters just not. That ain't it. Tough. That is not a winning play.
Holding up Manamo.
I've ever seen one. That's not going to do it. As here is a follow-up of some kind from the Mana Confluence. Just kidding. Going to use the Manamo instead. It's Soul Ring. It doesn't trigger anything. So Kinnan gets to live for a few more seconds. Make 3. Is it Basalt time? Could be Basalt time. It is Basalt time. This resolves. That's infinite
This is where
mana.
we go.
This is the classic. All right, can anybody cast a spell? Oh, well, Ristix and May. Oh, okay. Well, can anybody draw a card? Infinite mana. What does that do?
It doesn't do
I mean,
anything
Infinite Color Spanner
yet.
doesn't do anything yet. But there's a lot of cards. I mean, we just drew
Yeah,
4
Max
cards off
drawn a
one
ton
ring.
of cards.
So it's got to do something.
Yeah, Max isn't. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can assume it's game over. 'Cause Max isn't gonna just like fire it off.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we're explaining the Basalt Monolith combo. I think all these players are going to be intimately familiar with that particular combo. So what is it that we're doing? Let's
Yeah, and you can respond to the
out.
first activation here, and you can break it up.
That looks to be what's happening. There's
Yeah.
a chain of vapor going after the Kinnan with the mana activation on the stack. So that would mean that there's
Yeah,
one
it
mana
must
in
be
the
on
mana
the
pool.
stack.
So there's one mana in the mana pool. Then I love the gestures from Caleb. A lot of personality here.
Yes.
Get this out of here. Goodbye. Basalt Monolith is tapped right now. With an activation to untap it on the stack is where I assume we have to be. Chain
Okay,
of
we have
Vapor.
a fierce guardianship to fight back.
Yeah, there's Fierce. You got some draw engines you can't use. A lot of hand motions from players that are not casting spells. Chain of Vapor is going to be countered by Fierce Guardianship. I believe players are at the show each other their hand stage from what just happened there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're just at full show each other the hands. Okay, Grim
Okay.
Monolith doesn't add anything to
Grim.
the mix.
All right, we just dump in our hand.
Green Sun
Okay,
Zenith
Green
for X
Sun.
is
That should
infinite.
be
That
okay.
feels
So
like a check mark.
that's a done
That's a
deal. Yep,
Thrasios.
that's Thrasios. Yep.
Oh, but no, you can't do that. You can't Thrasios. It has to be something else because you died at Bowmasters. Right? No. Can you do
You
it in
could,
such a way where you stack it all up?
yeah,
Oh, how does
yeah.
this
It's
work?
going to be complicated.
Oh, jeez. How
But
does
yeah,
this
maybe you
work?
need something else. It'll be interesting to see how
So,
Max navigates this.
yeah, you can like make it the mana, draw a card, triggers on the stack, draw a card, triggers on the stack, draw a card, just put infinite pings on the stack. How do you win?
Has there been a land drop made? You can kind of just wait till you find the treasure
My
vault.
CEDH hookup, I believe, has informed me that what we can do is do this until you have a critical mass of stuff and you can find green mana plus Veil of Summer, and then you don't die to the triggers.
I don't think Max plays Veil. Let me see.
There's no way he doesn't play Veil. Come on.
Let's see. Yeah, he does not play Veil.
Oh, well, that doesn't work.
The grind them into dust Max deck is one that I've just like run into it a lot, and he does a lot of like deck walkthroughs. I don't think he likes Veil very much.
Well, it would work here. Endurance in the same ilk. We have Colossal Sky Turtle. Let's do a deck perusal here. I mean, I'm sure that Max is going to show what we got. Elvish Spirit Guide has not been used.
Yeah, there's a few things you could just find to stop drawing cards. So it may require just that the right cards are on top of the deck. There is a crop rotation that could find the drawing a blank, but the treasure vault.
Treasure Vault. Okay. And then we have colored mana, and then we get to. We have Born Upon a
Flip.
Wind.
Then we do our big flip. Once we have
Oh,
the
okay.
colored
Then we
with the
have-
Kinnan activation.
Sure. Then we do the full draw. No. Yes, you could do the full draw just bottoming the Thassa's. There's no Thassa's Oracle, is there? How do we do this?
No.
What are we flipping?
There is. I mean, there's many things. There's like Hullbreaker Horde, a bounce
We have to win instant
everything.
speed if we're doing the triggers, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Is what wins at instant speed? I'm not sure there is.
Yeah, I don't know if he's. Yeah, I don't know if he's trying to go for instant speed or not. Curious how he executes this.
Well, I can tell you this: we're tracking cards. Like we're
But he's
tracking
also not
triggers.
scrying to the bottom either, so he could hit more lands. So yeah, this must be an instant speed win somehow. Oh yeah, Simian Spirit Guide, crop rotation, treasure vault. I don't know if how he win. I don't know how he kills ever.
You
I
have to
think.
win.
Oh,
You have
I
to
think
actually
he
win the
exact.
game.
I think there's a way he can do it. I think he can do it somehow. It's a really convoluted line.
Oh, Christ.
Uh, let's see. What was it? There's also Spellskite. Spellskite do it. You can redirect all the count. Like if he
Spellskite might
gets
do it.
SSG, treasure, 4 crop rotation, 4 treasure vault, make infinite colored mana. Put Spellskite into play through an instant speed
And then you
creature
have infinite
removal.
blue.
That'll redirect
Redirect
all
all the
the
targets.
targets to Spellskite, so that saves you from that spot. I think there's probably a way where you can.
There's endurance.
He probably doesn't play. Oh yeah, he has
Oh, there's
endurance.
treasure vault. He bottomed treasure vault. So yeah,
Yep,
I think
bottom
he sees
treasure
what
vault.
you
Yep,
say. I think we're crop
yep.
rotating for treasure vault. Very deliberately
Yeah,
bottomed
for the
there. That would
SSG.
speak
Yep.
to. All right, crop rotation for treasure vault is going to be the line to make
The
colored mana.
Spellskite makes it so he doesn't actually have to win at instant speed either. He can just not die at instant speed,
Well, yeah, but we
and
still
then he
need
can
a
flip
way. Like
everything.
we have to keep the spell sky at the bottom. I think that's another card we would have to bottom,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
I
So
think
when we
so. We'll
find
see if
spell
that
sky,
is the case.
we get to bottom spell sky, and then we have like court of calling or whatever to put to hand, and
Hmm.
that should do it for whatever else you need to get. I mean, then you have everything open, and I think there's the finale or whatever. Ham
Yep.
sandwich gets the job done.
Yep. Attack for trillions. Yep.
There's
There's the
court of
cord.
calling.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think he still
But
needs the
still
crop
going because
rotation.
he
Tell
doesn't
him
have the
stop there.
treasure.
That's
Yeah,
definitely
it
part
needs
of
the
the
crop
equation.
first.
There's crop rotation. Okay, we found crop rotation. I think we have it all now.
Okay.
So
Yep.
there's
There's
SSG, like we
SSG.
said, crop rotation for treasure vault, which we know is on bottom. That's going to make infinite treasures. Then we can just quarter calling the spell skite,
Cord
clear
for
the stack,
Spellskite. Yep.
put some nonsense in play, and do your finale, and then we're done. I love the pile of dice on the imposter mech. That does it for me. just keeping track of it, huh? I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How big is it? I don't know. 100.
Very cool to see Kinnan get to execute like one of these weird combo lines, like a good showing for this deck has an insanely high floor, but a really high ceiling to boot as well. Like this isn't something you normally have to do. You probably don't ever have to do this. Like this is a really niche scenario. And I had to just like look at his deck, and it's like there's like 10 different things you got to do in order
Yeah,
to like
parse
get
it out.
this
What
going.
matters in instant speed, and that's it's clever. I think that and I think you sniffed it out. I think you did a good job of that. Maybe you should be a Kinnan player. You seem to have all the lines dialed up.
I
There's
Yeah,
Spellskite, like you
it's a
said.
cool deck. Yeah, it's like one of the top. It's one of the top decks, and it does reward just knowing all of the silver bullets and like like your contact point out the veil. It's like, oh, this one card in my deck, I can like draw everything, so I have everything at my disposal immediately. Uh, each card very deliberate in Kinnan. It's a pretty tight deck list.
No kidding. And Veil of Summer, it says he doesn't need it.
Yeah, there's Spellskite.
I
Okay,
love
cool,
that
cool.
card. I'd play two. I'd play four.
Yeah, Spellskite's awesome in this deck. It does so much heavy lifting.
And here we go. Yeah, all the triggers are going to be redirected with the treasures. And then, yeah, after that should be trivial. Just go ahead and use the finale. Doesn't matter where the triggers were going either. They could be going at Kennen. They could be going anywhere. Doesn't actually matter. You get to redirect them all no matter where they're headed.
Yeah.
High five from the entire
Group
table.
high five of it and nothing matters.
Yeah. But
We died.
Oregon
Who
Satellite
cares?
gets to stunt on the
But
table anyway.
yeah, an awesome game. Glad they played that out.
Agreed. From first position, the McKinnon deck showing its stripes. In contrast we talked about there's a lot of TNK, a lot of Kennen that has showed up to this event. In contrast to the performance of the TNK decks, the Blue Farm decks, which have looked maybe a little anemic, I think the Kennen decks, in every time we've seen them, have been explosive and part of the game at every point.
Yeah, they can come back. It's like, yeah, killing Kinnan just is a temporary measure. There weren't any mana dorks, so there wasn't any way to keep it, keep it really down. But I was surprised that Max was able to pull that game out. It looked like he was far behind, and it was a slog. So congratulations to him.
Well, that is going to do it for round number 5, the final round for today of the Boil here, the Platinum event by the TopDeck Championship Series. We are going to have 2 more rounds of Swiss, the final 2 rounds tomorrow. I'm sure you'll be seeing these players within that context. If not tomorrow, then in that top 16, top 4. All great records. Remember, we were watching pod number 1. And, of course, we're going to have our semifinals and our finals tomorrow as well. We're going to be crowning a champion. Both of us, I believe, will be back in the booth tomorrow at various points in time. Can't confirm the exact texture of that, but you are not going to want to miss a moment of the CEDH action from the largest CEDH event that happened here in the United States and maybe actually ever. Gonna have to go back and check on that one for sure, but definitely here in the States. Breaking records left and right.
Your soul.